Hi everybody, I'm Susan, and in this video we'll look at problem number 50 from test 4 in your red book. So go ahead and pause the video and check out that problem now. So this is problem number 50, and so some of you might be thinking this has got to be a super hard question. It's number 50, it's toward the end, look at this ugly graph, and you just freak out when you're looking at it. I have great news for you, which is that the only information you need to know to get this problem right is what domain means. So this problem wants us to find out what is the domain of x. And domain simply means everywhere that x crosses. So to get this problem right, we're just going to look for the spots where x does not cross in this graph. So there's two ways to do this. We'll do it by looking at the graph, and then we'll do it by solving the equation. Either way will get you there, so whatever works for your brain is just fine. So the first way to do this is to look at this graph and determine spots where x does not cross. Obviously, the graph in your book is prettier than this one here, but you can tell by looking at this, whenever you have this kind of shape, it is a clue that there is what's called an asymptote, which is basically like a line that can't be crossed. So I'm going to draw in a dashed asymptote right here, and that is at x equals -1. So x equals -1 is at least one spot on the graph that x is not going to cross. You can tell this is going to get closer and closer and closer to that line on the top and the bottom, but it's never going to cross it. And then there's this conspicuous little hole right here. And so this hole means x doesn't go there either. Now, you might be the kind of person that's wondering why and need to know, or you can be the kind of person that just says, hey, there's a hole there, so that means x isn't going to go there. And that's equally as fine for the ACT. So this is right at x equals 3. So that is a 3. So we know the two spots where x doesn't go are x equals -1 and x equals 3. And that is option J. Now, the other way you can do this is by solving this equation on the bottom of your fraction to equal 0. And the reason that works is that the bottom of a fraction cannot equal 0 because that's what we call undefined. So if we can get this and figure out how to make it equal 0, that is the same way it's going to mean that's where x doesn't cross. So we're simply going to do a little reverse FOIL action here. To figure out how to get this to equal 0. So we're ignoring this top part. All we need is to solve the bottom of the fraction to equal 0. So the way to do this is to think about ways you can multiply things to get together to equal -3. So that means one of these is going to be positive and the other one's going to be negative, because that's how you get a negative number. And then, so of course it's 3 and 1. Those are the only things you can multiply to equal -3. So we just need to figure out which one's negative and which one's positive. And the way we can do that is by looking at this -2x. That is a symbol for us that the way they got there was -3x plus 1x. So that means it's going to be x plus 1 and x minus 3. Now, if you plug in either -1 right here or 3 right here, that's going to make the whole bottom term equal 0. And you'll notice -1 and 3 are the very same numbers where x doesn't cross in this graph. So that's two ways you can figure out that the domain of this is x does not equal -1 and x does not equal 3, which is option J.